know why this show treats women who are in their early 30s as if they're in their, like, 60s or something. What is happening? Like, they're treating, you're 32 and they're all, like, they're acting like they're ancient. I'm like, what is happening? 32, you are young. If you want to join, you gotta join now, but you can't cause trouble, okay? Fuck.
Oh my god!
Okay, just settle down so I can do my intro, okay? Hi all, we're Kelly and Julie, and we are here to find love. Today we are doing another Bachelor recap of Clayton Echard's season of The Bachelor, season 26, episode 6. If you're new here, hi, welcome. We are both dating coaches and we just really love going deep on frothy shit like The Bachelor and other reality TV. So if you are into that kind of stuff and love getting into the nitty-gritty of the relationships and kind of the psychology behind shows like The Bachelor, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our Bachelor recaps. And with that, let's get into talking about this episode. So in this week's episode, we started off finally getting to see our 2-on-1 with Genevieve and Shanae. It was super awkward. Basically, we just saw Shanae lie her shoes off to Clayton and brag about it in her in-the-moment interviews and lie about Genevieve wanting to go home, even though Genevieve never said anything like that. Clayton finally caught wind of the fact that Shanae is full of shit and sent her home, picking Genevieve over Shanae.
Yeah, I had my doubts, Kelly. When I saw him talking to Shanae, I was like, homeboy really might choose her.
I know, I was worried.
I'm glad he didn't, but I'm like, this is Clayton. Like, that's what the episode revealed more and more to me. He's not a very good judge of character. It just feels like a producer told him, send Shanae home, because it felt like he could have gone either way when he was giving the rose to Genevieve or Shanae. Didn't it?
It did. We were just kind of done with it. Maybe the producers were like, all right, we've had enough of this. Like, Clayton, just send her home. And, like, you're right. I don't even know that he was even, like, convinced that, or I don't think he realized that Shanae had been lying the whole time. To me, it just seemed like he was like, I'm tired of the drama. Let me just pick Genevieve and just send Shanae home because I just don't like Shanae enough to continue dealing with this drama. Although they kind of kept teasing, like, as if she was going to show up again. I kept getting that sense. I was like, oh, God. If she does show up again, it's because the producers were like, hey, we can fly you to Croatia if you want to, like, show up again. And, like, that to me signals that the producers also just, like, don't care about the fact that Shanae has been completely unhinged. Because I just don't think that the producers are getting how much, like, Shanae is not, like, Shanae is less of a Demi and more of a Luke P, if that makes sense. So
it completely makes sense. And I think that, like, if the show is moving in that direction, the Bachelor franchise is going to have a reckoning. Like, this is a tangential thought, but I just think that the way that the show is pushing itself and it's being so produced and it's not really even breaking the fourth wall at times, there's going to be a point when it just becomes unbearable and unwatchable, because I'm already getting that sense of Shanae. You're right, like, just seeing her laugh about, oh, I just really wanted to make myself cry. Like, that's not even cute in a villainous, like, you can be a meme way. That's psychotic to see someone being like, I'm playing with this person's emotions and I want to send this woman home. It's like, these are people's feelings to some capacity. You are in a TV show, but, like, it's weird and strange to see you being so, like, flippant about everything.
Let's see how the producers handle it. I really think that the producers need to do a better job of you know, recognizing these different categories of villains. Villains who are just kind of, like, a little zany and goofy and weird and funny and kind of, like, stirring drama. Yeah. Right. That's a totally different kind of villain. Or, like, someone who's just, like, overly confident. That's so different from, like, the villains who are, like, just out to, like, hurt people for no reason. Like, that is, like, we don't want to see that. We like the drama. You know, I keep seeing the preview. The preview of the end of Clayton's season is like giving me life. I'm so excited to see how that all pans out. But that's not like people are like intentionally out here like trying to hurt each other. It's like people are like making mistakes on the path of love. And like that is interesting and it's real life. And like it is entertaining to watch. It's juicy to watch. It's so different from like the Shanae stuff where Shanae is just like, let me see how I can like emotionally like manipulate all of these people. And like, it's like, oh, that's gross. Like,
that's such an excellent point because I do see that with Clayton. It's not like he was like, I'm going to get them all to a room and tell them that I slept with them to hurt their feelings. He's just being a dummy about it. He's like, this is the best way to talk about it, and I'm just going to bring it up. You know, that's like an ignorance that you can find some type of like humanity in. Shanae didn't have any.
Anyways, I can't lose any more sleep over Shanae. I can't waste any more breath over Shanae. Like, if you want to see more of our thoughts about Shanae, we have had other videos where we've talked ad nauseum about her, so you can go watch those above or below in the description box. Let's move on. So, following that 2-on-1 date and everybody celebrating Shanae leaving, we got to a rose ceremony. It was pretty uneventful. We basically just saw Marlena and Hunter go home. Then we got our first one-on-one of the episode, which is with Teddi. Teddi is the person who got the first impression rose on the first episode of the season, but she had kind of been fading into the background a little bit. So it was kind of nice to see her get a one-on-one in Croatia, which is, their first international destination. It looked so freaking beautiful. I was like, I
want to go to Croatia.
But we did want to kind of go in and talk about what came up on Teddi's one-on-one date, specifically in the evening portion, when Teddi finally brought up kind of the thing that she had teased about her kind of storyline on the show in the first episode, which is the fact that she's a virgin. I use quotation marks just because I think that word is so not helpful and useful. Virginity is just, it's not a thing. It's like you're defining yourself based on like whether or not a penis has entered you. It's just a very weird way to describe yourself. And so anyways, but what did you think of the way that conversation played out and that conversation came up, Julie?
I forgot that was Teddi's storyline. When she was talking about how she really had to tell him something, I was like, what is it? Is it like some boyfriend situation, a family situation? And then when she said it was virginity, I was like, oh, this is kind of like to me, like, it's an important topic, but it's also like a non-topic in a way. It's like, this is just an experience that I haven't had yet, and I liked how she was kind of immediately telling him there are some, misconceptions about why people are a virgin, and that's not necessarily why it's not like religious, it's not because of I'm saving myself, I just want to do it with someone that I genuinely love. So I liked that conversation. I didn't love how Clayton responded to it when he was like, I just didn't think of her as a virgin because she doesn't look like a virgin. And it was just like...
so weird.
I just thought it was so jarring because here's Teddi being so eloquent and just explaining her reasons behind it. And then for Clayton to just lead with a misconception and just be like, well, she didn't look like one. What does being a virgin even look like? Is it a negative thing? Like, there's all of these, like, these stereotypes in his head that was a little bit concerning that he didn't have a lot of, like, social grace, I think, handling that conversation because it's not a big deal. Like, you haven't had sex. If you've had a ton of sex, to each your own.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Clayton just handled that conversation so poorly. It was so weird. And, like, I think the thing with conversations about virginity that are so frustrating is people use it as like this identifier about whether or not you've had sex, and it's just very weird. We don't talk about anything else in our life the way that we talk about whether or not you've had sex, and I just don't know why we use this activity as like a personal identification in a way. I mean, I do know why. It's like patriarchy. Virgins were better, you were more able to sell them for trades and alliances and so on and so forth historically. That's the reason that we have a term for virginity specifically, or for the lack of having had sex. But it's like funny that we still have like retained this word or this like this signifier as if it means something particularly valuable about a person's identity. And to your point, Julie, it's just like we're putting more importance on sex than there needs to be. Like, it's just like a personal choice. And so I always like bristle a little bit at these types of conversations because they always make it seem like the decision to have sex or to not have sex says so much about you. And I don't actually think it says that much. I just think it's a personal preference type thing. And like, you know, you do want to, for some people, it matters a lot that you are aligned in this area, but I just never feel like this is like a big signifier, whether you're someone who is choosing not to have sex until you're in a certain relationship or you're someone who's having a lot of sex. I just don't think it says so much about a person. And that's, I think, why the term virginity in particular, it's just like, I just find it useless at this point. I think we got to just focus on like, less on like whether or not we've lost something, virginity, and just more on like, you know, your sexual debut. You know, it's your first time doing something fun. And that's really all it is. It's not any different from your first time skiing, you know, like your first time, whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's really not so different from any of that. So anyways, that's like a whole long tangent, but like I agree with you completely that like Clayton seemed so like, how do I respond to this? You don't look like a virgin, and it's like,
oh
okay.
My gosh, when he said that, I was like, you are kind of upholding and perpetuating what you were saying before, that there's all of this significance around the label of being a virgin when it's just an experience that you have or you don't have. And I wish that it was kind of like framed in a way that felt a little bit more like low stakes. I think after that conversation, it did change how he saw Teddi, and that's why I think the conversation went poorly. He could have really made her feel safer, or like been like, that's really not a big deal, let's just keep eating our dinner. I bet he thought about it when he got back to his hotel room that night. Like, I think she's a virgin.
It was, I think, significant to him in some way, which is more of a concern, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, that he was
so
like,
too.
Found it to be as significant as he did. And I think the other thing too about the way Clayton responded is he kind of hooked on to the next thing that she said, which was, I've never been in love before, so I've never had sex because I want to have sex with someone when I am in love with them. And then he like kind of like hooked onto that. I almost feel like he was like using that as a proxy for the sex thing, but then he was like asking these like really just like stupid questions. He was like, oh, well, if you've never been in love before, how will you know that you're in love? I'm like, I don't know, Clayton. The same way anyone knows they're in love for the first time. Haven't you been in, like, how did you know you were in love? Like, what kind of question is that? It's like, everyone has a first love. I kind of almost wonder if he was planning on sending Teddi home. Like, I kind of wonder if he, like, wasn't connecting with her that much.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
And then she brought up this really vulnerable thing, and then he had all these kind of critical questions for her, and, like, I was kind of just getting the sense, he was like kind of not giving her a lot of positive feedback, and he was asking all of these kind of like trick questions of like, you've never been in love? Will you ever be in love? Will you ever know when you're in love? And it's like, he was like asking these weird questions, and I kind of got the sense it was like he was trying to see if she would like trip on one of these questions, which
and
she
then
didn't.
he could be like, then
I'm
he
not
could
going
be
to
like,
send
this is the
exactly.
reason.
Exactly. Okay. But she kind of like never did, and then I think he like maybe felt bad to send her home. Like that's the sense I got. Like he was like, oh well, I can't send her home after she told me she's a virgin because that would make me seem like I only care about sex, so I have to keep her around. That was kind of the sense that I was starting to get from that conversation, but I don't know. It also could have been edited weird, but
now that you're saying that, it makes a lot more sense. Like I don't know if he was planning to send her home on that date, but I think he was reorganizing his like top 5. He was like, okay, like how should I kind of prioritize it, knowing that Teddi is a virgin? Okay, now how do I rank her with all of the other girls that I'm feeling this connection with? Because with Teddi, I don't think he has strong feelings for her, not like he does with some of the other people.
Yeah, I agree. I almost feel like Teddi is someone who, because he had that early first impression rose connection with, he almost like has used that as a proxy or like as a stand-in for having like a real connection with her, and it's just kind of like, well, I gave her the first impression rose, so I have to keep bringing her along. Like even though I don't feel like their relationship has really been progressing, I mean, compare their date and how their date went with the way he's been talking to Rachel. Like him and Rachel seem like they are like deep in love, like about to get engaged, like honeymooning. Yeah. That's what their relationship seems like. Versus like with Teddi, it was like a first date. Like that's
yes,
what, you know?
That's so right.
So anyways, I guess we'll see how that all pans out. But that's how Teddi's date went. Let us know down below if you have any thoughts about the whole virginity conversation, how their conversation went, and just in general, how you think people talk about sex in relationships and the decision to have sex or not have sex. Let us know how you approach these conversations or what you think about the way that people on this show approach those conversations. Let's definitely keep this conversation going. I'm curious to see what you all think. So following Teddi's date, we got ourselves into a group date. And by the way, when the group date was announced, we found out who the following one-on-one was going to be. And we found out that it was going to be Sarah. And this is a big deal because Sarah has already had a one-on-one date. And so there are girls who are still here, including Mara, who has been really, really angling for a one-on-one date and still hasn't gotten one. So that kind of energy took us into the group date. And the new drama that's kind of been appearing throughout this episode and really came to a head in this group date is that there seems to be some beef between Mara and Sarah. So the big kind of thing that has been emphasized in the episode and in previous episodes is that the two of them have, I guess, the biggest age gap in the house. So Sarah's the youngest person in the house. She's 23, I believe. And Mara is the oldest person in the house at 32. Clayton, by the way, is 28, I think. So he's kind of right in between these two women in terms of age. And so that kind of started to come to a head. I think Mara is like an interesting one because I have liked her throughout this season, but then it seems like in this episode in particular, it was like her insecurities were coming to a head in this, like, kind of, now that we're at the end of, basically coming to the end of the season and coming to the end of this journey, and she's realizing that she's not forming a connection with Clayton, and Clayton is forming stronger connections with other women, some of whom are, at least one of whom is like 10 years younger than her. It's like there is this weird insecurity thing that is coming out. And the funny thing is it's coming out, but she's kind of papering over it with this like bravado of like, I'm this like amazing, passionate, independent, strong woman, and if Clayton doesn't see that, that's his problem. Like she's kind of like papering over it a little bit, and it's like, it's okay to be sad that you are getting rejected. Like you can be sad about that. That doesn't make you less strong and independent. It hurts to get rejected, and like she's doing this weird thing where she's kind of like trying to like almost save face by like continuing to talk about how great she is. And I do think she is great, but it's like it really feels like it's coming from this like defensive, insecure place, which I don't know, it's kind of sad to watch, honestly.
I think there's for sure this like age disparity, and she is very, very aware of it. Like I think that of Sarah, she's like, Mara's older, and that's kind of where it ends. Like Mara sees her age, and she's like, that means I'm more mature. That means I'm more marriage oriented. That means I'm XYZ. Sarah being this young is this. Like she has all of these stereotypes and all of these like judgments that she's making just because of age that I think is really unattractive to see. But I do think older women, maybe the older women that I've worked with, I don't want to generalize it for everybody, but they have that feeling almost of like maybe a feeling of being upset or angry that the men that they're dating, they're competing with the attention of like these younger 20-something girls, and they feel like they've done so much work to be the person that they are. And when they see that happening, they're like, do you know what I bring to the table? I bring all of this. She's so young. She doesn't know what she wants. So I think that Mara was really getting into that mind trap of like comparison, which is just, as soon as you kind of veer off into that road, you're on the wrong track. It will take you nowhere good. It's just kind of like a straight shot to hell, I would say. Right. Like the more that you kind of just compare yourself to something intangible that you cannot change. So I didn't love to see like, I don't know, how she was making all of these judgments on Sarah and how she was presenting herself to be this amazing woman, because she can be, but like when she was putting her down, that's what I was like, Mara is crossing the line from being this like woman that knows her worth to this woman who is putting down someone else to show her worth.
Yes, so exactly. It's like she was kind of taking this thing that I think it seems like she is insecure about, which is her age, And
yeah, and 32
like,
is not that old.
First of all, okay,
it's not that old. Let's address it right here.
Okay, we need to just put this out here, okay? I don't know why this show treats women who are in their early 30s as if they're in their, like, 60s or something. What is happening? Like, they're treating, you're 32 and they're all, like, they're acting like they're ancient. I'm like, what is happening? 32,
yeah.
You are young.
Like
you
are
grandma. A baby. I'm sorry. The truth is, like, you're 32, you're a baby. Like, I don't know why you're acting like you were, like, some kind of, like, and Mara herself was even kind of acting like she's like 51 or something. I'm like, you are 32. Yeah. Like, I don't know why you're like having this idea in your head that like you're so old and wise and different from all these youngins. I'm like,
no,
girl,
you're on the same par as Sarah, I would say. And that's not a dig. That's just like, that's how similar their life experiences is. Like a decade.
Exactly.
There's a lot of experiences, but that doesn't, they have so much more in common than they think they do.
Exactly.
And I just, like, dude, I just wish that with Mara, she was able to, I know it's really hard because your ego gets in the way.
Your ego gets in the way, yeah.
I would just kind of be like, okay, it's mid-season. I don't really feel strongly about Clayton because she doesn't. Nothing can convince me that she does or that he does. I haven't seen anything like his other connections with her. So, like, for her not to be able to kind of, like, be realistic about that situation and for her to... I think that it just became this thing where her competition, her pride got mixed into Clayton. And now he's this projection that she is... throwing all of her insecurities at, and which is this is the hardest part about it, her need for validation. Now Clayton is responsible for her self-esteem. He's responsible for the fulfillment of her dreams because she said, I've been waiting so long for a person. He is just one man. He is one simple man. Do not ever give this man this much power into like how you feel about yourself. And she did it, and I think that's energetically he is going to sense that when he interacts with her, and I think he did when they had that date and he was she was complaining about Sarah. He could feel like this heaviness, like there's more than what she's saying.
Yeah, I mean it's complicated because there's kind of a lot of interweaving things. Like, I agree. I don't actually think there's a connect. I don't think Mara actually likes Clayton. Like, that's not actually there.
So
she said in the camera a couple times, like, I can see a future with him. I'm like,
how?
Why?
Where?
Like, there's nothing there. And it's like,
yeah,
you know, she's like, he has a lot to bring to the table. I have a lot to bring to the table. I'm like, that doesn't mean that there's going to be a connection between you two. It's like, there's this weird thing that, like, good people are, or, like, good people are supposed to like each other, or, like, I'm so great. And it's almost like a sense of, like, entitlement, almost. Like, I'm such a great person that I deserve for people to give me their time, attention, affection. And it's like, that's not how this works. It's like, it's not about whether or not someone gives you attention and affection. It's not about you, your worth, your value. It's just about whether there's connection between the two of you. And if there's no connection, there's no connection. I don't know why it's almost like she's trying to, like, make this more symbolic than it is. It's not symbolic of anything. It's just, there's not a connection. He's not that into you. You're not that into him, and that's okay. Like, I don't know why it has to be this whole commentary on, like, you know, you and who you are and what you deserve. And, like, it's not about what you deserve. It's like, does he like you? He doesn't like you. It's okay.
Totally. It sucks to see because she is a person that has so much worth. She's so beautiful. There's so many good things about her, and just to see her insecurities seize control of her, and for her to act the way that she's acting, I'm like, baby girl, no. Like, this is the worst. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Right. And it's like, I feel bad because like, I think we can't ignore the fact that, like, we do live in a society that is ageist, sexist against women specifically, right? As women get older, society treats them as less valuable. And that is, like, that sucks. It's a thing that sucks about the kind of culture that we've created. And it sucks that women have to kind of deal with that, just, like, kind of feeling like people are valuing them less as they get older versus men continue to be seen as valuable with age, right? And often seen as more valuable with age, right? And it's like, that does suck. And that is an awful kind of mantle to carry as a woman, you know, moving through life. That is, like, think about the way Claire has been treated on this series in comparison to the way Kenny has been treated on this series. Kenny is the hot 40-something who's got this great bod and, like, all these girls that, like, want a piece of him. And Claire is the, you still got it, Claire, don't worry. Like, and everyone's like, oh my God, Claire
good for your age.
Yeah, everyone's kind of like, comment. Oh, Claire is, like, bitter, but, like, you know, she still deserves love. Old people like Claire still deserve love. And it's like, huh? Like, why are we talking about Claire this way? Meanwhile, Kenny is heralded as this, like, yummy god. You know, it's misogynist. It sucks. And so Mara is carrying that. And I think we've seen this theme play out on this show before, where I'm thinking of, like, Demi's season, where Demi was on. Who was it?
She was
Colton?
She was a really bad perpetuator of this. Yeah.
She was the
worst.
I'm a young, hot 23-year-old and you're just like a cougar. Look at you, you're 29. I'm like, huh? Like, I know. She was like making fun of like 29-year-old women, I believe, on this show. And it was like calling them cougars. I was like, what is happening here? That's not just natural in the way things are. We have created that. We have created this mentality around women and how much we value them and how attractive we let ourselves see them as based on this number. Because, I mean, clearly, like, Mara, Claire, they're hot. They're good-looking women. So, anyways, I bring this up because I feel like Mara is carrying that on her shoulder a little bit. This, like, understanding that people view women who are 32 in this way, even though, again, 32 is so young. Like, and I think she's carrying that, and so she kind of knows that she has to fight against that. And the problem is that she's fighting against that by bringing down the women who are younger than her. And, like, that's the issue here. Like, to your point, it's like... I
love that you brought that up.
You know, bringing other women down doesn't lift you up. And, like, I think that's, like, a core truth that she has forgotten. Like, it's, like, not doing her any favors. It kind of, like, is showing her kind of ugly side, her ugly inside. And, like... It just feels like a symptom of her own insecurities, and she thinks that she can build herself up by bringing other people down, and, you know, it's obviously biting her in the butt because it's not cute to watch. So, it was just kind of, for me, it just felt sad to watch, honestly. I was like, Mara, you are a sinking ship, and, like, you shouldn't be. Like, you are putting yourself in this category.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that Mara could see us, or she could see herself the way that people see her, because I look at her and I'm like, first, babe, second, successful, attractive. There are so many, like, I'm just like, bam, just kind of the whole package. And when you were talking about her ugly side, that's the toxic beliefs of internalized misogyny that she's displaying, because it's not her, it's people and the messaging telling her that the older that she gets, the more that her worth declines. So then she kind of projects the misogyny towards seeing other women as competition, seeing them as the problem. It just reduces down to the very simple question of, do you two have a connection? Yes or no? Yeah. Anything else outside of that is projection. It's your own problems. It's your esteem. It's the way that you view the world. It's all how you perceive yourself to be when you answer that question. And Mara showed that she has some things that I think every woman will go through this process of working this out of your system, because this has been ingrained in us our entire lives.
That's
like we grew up so sexualized, and then as soon as we get older, we are dropped for the next young hot thing. That's the perception that women believe and that we've taken on, and that the older we get, we become like less sexy, we become less attractive. And Mara, I could feel her carrying that into her interaction with Clayton, and she just needs to drop that, and she needs to kind of like realize too that she's seeing if he's eligible instead of her wanting to be chosen by him. That's like another thing that she's kind of feeding into that I think is a very unhealthy thing to see on TV. Like, will he choose me? If he chooses me, this says this about me. It's like, it says nothing about you.
It says nothing about you. She was like there was one point where she was saying, like, I've worked so hard, I give so much, and I'm not getting anything in return. And, like, it's like, you can do anything, all of the things in the world, and you cannot force someone to like you. You cannot control the way other people feel, and you need to release this idea that anything that you're going to do is going to make people like you more. It's not. You know, you just need to be yourself. Don't be a bad person and, like, treat people well. And, like, if they like you, they will like you, but you are not going to force them to like you. And you need to get it out of your head, like you said, that whether or not you're successful at making that person like you is a marker of your worth. It's not. Like, this is not a trade-off, but how hard I work, how much I put in is how much I'm going to receive back. Because this is a human being. It's not a slot machine. Like, you know, Clayton is not, you put the coin in, look, I have so much value, I'm putting my value into his machine, and now he's going to give it back to me. It doesn't work like that. He's a human being. It's either he likes you or he doesn't like you, and it's okay if he doesn't like you. Like, get rid of the idea that, like, it has to be this one, or it has to be, like, the guy that I like should like me back, and because I deserve it, because I'm so great. And if they don't, they're broken or I'm broken. No one's broken. Like, everyone's fine. Like, you're fine, yes. He's fine, you just are not connecting. It's okay.
This is like the one takeaway if anyone's watching our video that I just want people to pay attention to, because this is the most important thing that I think could have come out of the episode. It's just the inherent value of worth and like what it means when someone chooses you or doesn't choose you. But yeah, it was sad for me to see it because I just kept seeing Mara and I was like, you are such a well-rounded, amazing person, and it just sucks to see someone fall apart because of the conditioning of society. And the show was just kind of like causing her to wither. And like I wish that I was like, I want, instead of Jesse as the host, give them a therapist. Like, have someone be there that you can actually talk to about these things. Because when he was talking to Jesse about his problems, what makes Jesse equipped to give this guy advice? He was just a guy that was on a dating show. Actually have someone there that's professionally trained to hold space with someone and can help you draw something outside of yourself. Like, bring some type of mental health integration into this process, because watching Mara, seeing Sarah, seeing all of these people kind of fall apart on their quest of love, this can be prevented. This can be a thing that you fall down and then you get back up with this newer knowledge, and the show just wants you to fall down and they just want to kind of like keep poking at you. I was like, let's get some growth into this, you know? Yeah,
I think you're like hitting on such a good point, which is that it's like the show plays into these like ridiculous ageist sexist themes of like women who are above 30 are all cougars and women who are below 25 all are like immature and don't know what they want. It's like, you know, they always cast women in these ways, or they play women off in these ways, and like they stuff women into these weird stereotypes and people in general. And so I feel like this show is in fact leaning into this
absolutely
all of this like baggage that all of this like kind of cultural societal baggage that we all carry. The show leans all the way into it. They're like oh, I see you're carrying something very heavy over there, Mara, related to the way society treats women above 30. Let me just push my hand down on it. So like that's what it feels like the show is doing. So it's like slightly exacerbated, and it like makes you like remember that you're carrying that weight. So now it's like top of mind for her, and she like, you know, they're like poking at these wounds and making it come out because they want to, you know, they want to be able to showcase it on television instead of helping people grow from these you know, grow and heal these wounds. So I think that it is partially like the show is making this come out, right? Making this like ugly sides of people come out rather than giving them opportunities to change, you know?
Yeah, dude, I think the show will definitely have something happen. I don't know what, like in the next season or two, there'll have to be something, because I think a lot of people, as mental health becomes more of a priority and it's becoming more of like an accepted thing, the show is just so toxic. And it's interesting because when I watched it as a viewer, I didn't really care. I was like, oh, this is just a TV show. But now that you and me talk about it through such a like contemporary analytical lens, it's hard for me to like the show or root for the show as much, because I see all of these problematic origins. Because we talked about Bachelor in Paradise, we talked about the last Bachelorette season, and you kind of see the same things come up again and again, and it's like, how long can the show keep having this formula before it doesn't work for them anymore? Before they realize that the way that they're presenting women, the way that they're framing men, the way that they frame age and all of these things is propping up these very harmful ways of thinking for people. And if people aren't watching it critically, you kind of, through osmosis, through just watching the show,
Yeah.
you're taking it in. Like,
Yeah.
you might be in your mid-20s watching it, and then 5 years from now, you might think, I'm 30, I am now worthless. Like, there's this thing, like, it's like a trigger that gets set off when you're at that age, and the show could have it's such a huge platform, and it could really kind of lead the way in being this gentler, more, like, progressive conversation, and they're choosing to kind of act like they're still in early 2000.
You know, on the one hand, people always say, like, oh, like, why are you making this show responsible for creating change in the world? And it's like, the show is just showing the world as it is. Like, people say that all the time. They say that about, like, ads, too. They'll be like, oh, like, especially when people complain about unrealistic body types, like, in marketing and in the media and stuff. Like, people are like, oh, but they, like, you know, it's not their job to, like, you know, fix society and fix what society finds attractive. And it's like, it's not their job, but the thing is, like, when we continue to showcase, you know, old problematic ideas, mindsets, thinking about, you know, people, about body types, but also about relationships and about women and about men, like, when we continue to showcase these kind of old, archaic, problematic ways of thinking, they just get perpetuated, especially if we show them and don't challenge them, right? And it ends up, it's not that the show needs to be like the arbiter of change or something, but you can at least be critical. I mean, they just really don't show any interest in kind of course correcting, or at least saying, like, this was entertaining to watch, but very, very bad. Like, they don't really show any interest in saying anything like that. And by doing so, they are perpetuating that it is okay to have these beliefs, and it is okay to behave this way, and that it is normal and right and correct for people to, like, look down on people like Mara who are over the age of 30. And, like, it becomes further part of our kind of cultural consciousness when we don't call it out, you know?
Absolutely. And it's like, me and Kelly are here to find love, but we're here to find healthy love. We're not here to find toxic, gross, misogynistic love. So that wraps up what me and Kelly have thought about Clayton's last episode. Sarah's date is going to continue for the next episode, so we're going to talk about it then. Drop any comments down below on what you're thinking about her connection of Clayton so far. Do you think that he can come back from this? Like, can he come back from his poor judgment? Because I could see it on her face that she was like, this guy is just insane for believing anything that anyone tells him. So let us know what you think in the comments below. Okay, so that was all of me and Kelly's thoughts about this episode. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure to subscribe, turn on the bell for notifications, and we'll be back next week for more of Clayton's shenanigans. So we'll talk to you guys then. Bye.
Bye.